NewCell has closed the books for Q1 2022. I'm here with CEO Patrik Lundström. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with some basics. The numbers, net sales amounted to just over 2 million with an EBITDA of minus 46 million. Is this in line with your expectations going into Q1?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these 2 millions actually come from selling of capacity that we actually producing at the Kristinehamn plant. We're selling in the industrial value chain to our customers. So we're selling container loads and so forth. So that's definitely in line. Moreover, as you could see, if you compare it to Q4 and Q3, we actually increased the capacity quarter-over-quarter. And the reason to that is that we have very good control over our processes, which is of course very important for us in order to start up the new plant for NewCell 1 in Ortviken.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a bit more about that because due to strong customer interest, I think in February you decided to initiate an expansion of production capacity a bit ahead of plan, 2 years ahead of plan, I think it was. Tell me about the pros and the cons behind this decision.
Well, the pro is, of course, there is enormous customer demand out there, and we have signed 2 letters of intent with Birla and Daewoo. And one more actually was signed in Q4 for Kelheim for 10,000 metric tons. So we have the base contract of 40,000, and then we have the Kelheim on 10,000. That brings us up to 50,000. Then we have like 10,000 metric tons for the rest of the market. So that made it very, very difficult to negotiate. I mean, there was no volume available for our customers. So we decided then to announce and to expand. But that also opened up the door for closing LOIs in this sense. And then further on, we're going to convert that into contracts. So it's actually a demand that is actually pushing this increase and ahead of plan then for 2 years.
Mm. And in financing this expansion, you talk about finding the efficient balance between debt and equity. Can you tell us a bit how you're reasoning here?
Well, we definitely going to have, and always will have, a very efficient capital structure. And the main thing there is, of course, to protect shareholder values. But if you look at what the financial guidance that we've had, we have 50% equity debt ratio. We're currently looking into the financial goals and so forth and how that's going to look like in the future. But we're always going to have a very efficient equity debt structure.
Mm. Now, you talked about these LOIs, letters of interest. So the customer's interest is based on these and some customer agreements as well. What is your expectation regarding the conversion rate of these letters?
I think it's high. The negotiations have already been ongoing, but it's also impossible for them to start looking into this more in detail unless they have actually been promised some volumes. And especially since the scarcity that we have, since the 60,000 tons and now the 120,000 tons, customers want to know that there is actually something that we're negotiating around. And that's the reason for these LOIs.
Mm. And you mentioned these 2 newest LOIs as well under significant events this year. One can read about Birla and Daewoo. Can you tell us something about their production capacity?
Well, Birla is one of the biggest viscose producers in the world. They have approximately 700,000-800,000 metric tons per year. Daewoo is a little bit smaller. They are a Japanese company, but they are around approximately 100,000 metric tons of viscose per year. So these are significant players in the market and very highly skilled companies. And they are also been mentioned by NGO organizations as being very environmentally friendly type of companies, especially Birla, but also Daewoo have those denotations from example Canopy, who's regarding them very highly.
And what do they see in RenewCell in these discussions, constructing the LOIs? What's making RenewCell attractive?
RenewCell is the only company today that has a 100% recycled dissolving pulp, and from there you can make 100% recycled viscose fiber. And if you look at the brands, what they have promised the market, they have said that by 2025, or by 2030, or 2028, or whatever the number is, they're going to be 100% recycled or using recycled materials or other sustainably sourced materials. These other sustainably sourced materials is very difficult to let's say, come by and also to explain to customers, because they're just a little bit better. They're not good. So sustainable, so organic cotton, for example, and BCI is not really sustainable. It's just a little bit better. If you look at recycled polyester is actually a material that is not recyclable at all. If you take PET bottles, you can recycle them over and over again. But as soon as you make a textile out of it, it can't be recycled again. So it's a little bit of a greenwash there, actually.
Now, you've made some technology advancements as well. You mentioned being able to include the entire sporting market attire as well with your new technology. Can you help us understand?
Yeah, when we started this company, we were actually aiming at the viscose market, which is approximately 7-8 million tons per year. But what we've been able to prove is, together with Levi's, for example, we have replaced approximately 40% of cotton in their jeans. So we've opened up the cotton market as well. And that is about 25 million tons a year. And on top of that, we've also proven that we can do viscose filaments. And that has actually sparked a big interest from the sporting goods sector. And that is approximately about 35% of the total 110 million tons. So it's about 60 million tons and so forth. So that means that our market has and our technical addressable market have increased tremendously over the last quarter and 2 quarters. So our market is actually growing, and we see that we have a technical addressable market about 24 million tons. And moreover, we're also able to, we believe that the addressable market for a circulose type of fiber is about 7 million tons. I mean, that's impossible for us to build, but that is how big the market is and the drive towards sustainable fibers, and especially circular fibers.
Are there any discussions internally in the company now that you've raised the production capacity, or aiming to raise it to 120,000 tons, is it? To even raise it further, since there's such a big market?
Yeah, of course, there are ongoing discussions around that, and we're looking into those possibilities as we go forward. And as I said, the market is enormous, so we are constantly looking into how much that's going to be. But what we're going to do now, we're going to start up the plant of 60,000 tons and then expand it to 120,000 tons, create the cash flows, and prove the market, and then we're coming back then with further expansions. Sure.
A few weeks ago, RenewCell was elected winner in some kind of competition. It's called the Drapers Sustainable Fashion Awards. Can you tell us a bit about this and why it's significant?
Well, I mean, it's always fun to win all these rewards, and it is important because the market recognition from the brands. They see that this is actually happening, and RenewCell is one of the few, if not the only one, that actually can create circularity in fashion at this moment in time. We're hoping, and we see that they're coming, maybe some competitions eventually, but our estimation is that we're still about 5 to 7 years ahead of competition. So these awards are important for our brand.
Of course. Patrik Lundström, thank you so much for taking the time joining me today.
Thank you.